We discussed before this on a topic unrelated for now to the Trump-Putin meeting, a phone call that Trump had with Gavin Newsom. And before, Gavin Newsom was going to keep it in confidence. And now he decided to go public with the substance of that conversation. So let me take you back before showing you the recent divulging of this information back to when Newsom was reflecting, but not giving us the details yet, about a call he had with Trump that really disturbed him. And to kind of get your timeline set, this was back when there were the protests happening, anti-ICE protests, the destruction of Waymos, tears. Y'all know I advocated powerfully, strongly on that. But in Los Angeles, and some turned into riots, which is bad. Local law enforcement had it under control and could have had it, and did actually end up being the ones who had that under control throughout the entirety of those protests and some riots. And Trump, to make a big show of his power, even though it was completely unnecessary and he didn't get the governor's approval, sent in the National Guard and made a big show of it. And he says LA would be burnt to the ground because of like a 3-block radius that things were happening in. Burnt to the ground if it weren't for him saving LA. Again, even though the National Guard troops just sat there and didn't have to do anything because local law enforcement were having it under control, as I completely lose my ability to speak. And so Newsom had indicated that call that was the matter of Jesse Waters getting sued by Newsom for claiming that Newsom lied about it happened right before Trump sent in the National Guard. And Newsom previously had this to say about it. Then we'll get to the latest details he finally revealed.
Again, truth and trust. I continue to go back to those two foundational words. Look, what was so alarming is not only his total stone cold misrepresentation, this in the case, Trump's stone cold misrepresentation of what he discussed, and the facts that he didn't discuss what he said he discussed. It's what he wanted to discuss that is so alarming. At a time, at such a moral moment, when he's federalizing, federalize in this case, that phone call happened a number of hours before he federalized the National Guard. Over the objections of the governor, he didn't want to talk about that. He didn't even want to engage in the conversation around LA. And what was so chilling is over a 16-minute period, what he did want to discuss, the president of the United States, what he actually wanted to discuss. And in that context, it may become public. And let me tell you why. Because the House Oversight Committee has now requested, unsurprisingly, all of our information, all of our correspondence.
So at that point, what are you talking about? What was disturbing about what he chose to talk about or chose not to talk about? Now he's giving us the deets. And remember, this is such a major act for the U.S. president to send in the National Guard unnecessarily, unrequested, not really how that's supposed to go. The governor is supposed to request, and to exert federal overreach like that. Can you imagine if Obama had done that to a red state? They would have gone ballistic. There would have been militias. Shoo-wee! The don't tread on me flags, right? All over the place. Would there be a couple Confederate flags sprinkled in? Yes, there would be, but we will ignore that. And they'd have their guns and they'd be saying, Obama from, show us your birth certificate and we're going to keep you from invading Alabama. But Trump does it. And before that, as he's acting like there's the crisis of all crises going on in LA, is he browbeating Newsom, saying you got to get things under control like he was saying publicly? Was he getting Newsom's permission? Was he discussing the logistics, making sure they coordinate so that it's the proper response? No. Here's what it actually was. And while we watch, please do click the subscribe button if you appreciate the show. It's free. And if you're thinking, wow, that's too easy, I want to go a step further, you can do that by clicking the join button to become a member and get the members only bonus show.
This is a guy, people look up to the president of the United States. I mean, Mr. President, it's time to act like one. This is real life. It's not reality TV. And you got to model better behavior. But I think it's sad. And I think it's even worse than you just described. And I'll just give you a specific to that. When Donald Trump was just, a day before, he was to federalize the National Guard here in Los Angeles. He called me. We talked on a Friday night, late at night, and all he wanted to brag about the Newsom thing. He said, "It's pretty funny, isn't it?" He goes, "Pretty original." I said, "Well, it's not original. There was this guy, Maurice, I can't remember his name, but he used to say the same thing." He goes, "Hey, what about my hats? What do you think? It's a pretty good brand, right? Mega. It's pretty good. I've sold hundreds of thousands." I mean, I'm like, are you serious? Are we seriously having this conversation when you're supposed to be reading me the riot act about keeping people safe in Los Angeles? You never once talked about the National Guard. You never wanted to talk about what happened in LA. It's much more alarming than you think. And that's why what is happening in plain sight, you need to see for your own eyes. We've got to pay attention. This guy is unhinged. He's getting weaker and weaker by the day.
Ooh, Trump's not going like that. Gavin comes out like that. Apparently, he also brought up the Kamala debate. I don't know if that comes later in the clip, but I don't think we need to watch the whole rest of it. But so he's talking about, while he says a great American city is being burnt to the ground, was his interpretation of limited lawbreaking, which is wrong and terrible. But while a crisis that justifies the Marines, he also sent in Marines, active duty Marines being sent onto American streets. The day before he pulls the trigger on that decision, he's calling the governor of the state at issue and not talking about that issue. Instead, talking about how he maybe crushed Kamala in the debate. Wow. I said they're eating the dogs, and she was like, whoa. She didn't know what to do. And wow, I sell so many hats. MAGA, isn't MAGA great? And Newsom, isn't that so funny? It's so funny. It's weird. It's so insane. The U.S. president's caught up with that. Newsom said in other interviews, when people ask about cognitive,
I'm not cognitively.
After he worded it like that, which was, he didn't say I'm not cognitively declining. He said, I'm not cognitively. I now never say it the same. I just go, I'm cognitively. But Newsom said he felt like he was seeing really disturbing signs of deterioration mentally with their discussion, maybe on that, maybe on other things. Now, this Newsom-Trump clash right now is more so about the redistricting. And I guess Gavin Newsom has been saying that the governor of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott, rolled over for Trump, which is what he did, right? He bent the knee, he capitulated. And even as I'm using those words, that was a total accident, I'm realizing a lot of our common parlance uses those phrases that have something to do with the human body, like rolling over or bending the knee. And Fox News was up in arms, calling Gavin Newsom grotesque for saying that Greg Abbott rolled over for Trump because Greg Abbott is in a wheelchair, which I don't see how that's mockery of him. That's just a phrase. He rolled over for Trump. He capitulated. He said, yes, I'll redistrict Texas to give you congressional seats. But apparently that means Gavin was making fun of Greg Abbott being in a wheelchair. What?
Congressman Greg Abbott, who is in a wheelchair, and Newsom says he rolled over for Trump. That's almost as bad as Jasmine Crockett calling him Governor Hot Wheels.
Okay, yeah, that one was on purpose. Okay, that one I can't ignore. That one was on purpose. and I said no on that one.
You know, we asked for a statement, and Newsom's office said something flippant like, you know, oh, you're so woke. He'll get over it. Abbott will get over it. Your response to that?
Their statement was, no, but how woke of you to ask. I'm sorry Greg's feelings were hurt. Poor guy. We hope he recovers. They're doing shitposting, okay? But they were not meaning that. That's the normal phrase. That wasn't even direct. Now, the Hot Wheels one was, you shouldn't make fun of people, you know, in that way. And others even were more overt. Like, I'll take you back to a segment we did where I addressed a little slip up that a CNN host had. And we discussed how right-wingers who say the most horrendous things. Do you remember what they were mocking Paul Pelosi after he had his head beat in with a hammer? whenever people accidentally use, like, what roll over doesn't even apply to a wheelchair. If he said I don't have to do it, but if he said something more directly about like a wheel spinning, but it was just the phrase everyone uses in this way whenever someone capitulates to Trump. But this one was a little bit more whoopsie. Speaking of things MAGA folks were upset by, I saw this clip on the topic of the gerrymandering where Casey Hunt on CNN is asking a question to her guest. She used unfortunate wording about Greg Abbott, I'd say.
And senior national correspondent Ed Lavandera is inside the Texas State Capitol building. Ed, lawmakers going to try to establish this quorum again on Friday. I think my question to you is, does the governor have a leg to stand on here?
So she said, does the governor have a leg to stand on? Now, if you're not aware, well, I'll read Libs of TikTok, which is a really bad right-wing account, said CNN's Casey Hunt asked if Governor Greg Abbott Texas Governor Greg Abbott has a leg to stand on regarding his position on vacating the seats of runaway Texas Democrat legislatures. Greg Abbott is wheelchair bound. Completely disgusting. Now, come on, Libs of TikTok. Let's not act like she said that intentionally. That's a phrase. Does he have a leg to stand on? Now, would I use it? No, I wouldn't use it if I were talking about Greg Abbott. But you say things, right? I want to use that. I want to go, does Greg Abbott have a leg to stand on? Because you want to be sensitive. I want to say, Greg Abbott, let's walk through this together, right? I want to say stand up for the truth, right? You want to say those sorts of things, like we need to step it up, right? Man, he's really trying to walk away from his problems. Those phrases are wrong to use, but people will use them on accident. Like every time someone says that, we say like stand up for what's right. It's not a shot at the person who's in a wheelchair, and we're completely as much as I don't like Greg Abbott, I'm completely sympathetic and would not mock that aspect of who he is, which is that he's in a wheelchair and he's disabled. And people got mad at me for this when Jasmine Crockett said, what was it? Like Governor Hot Wheels? I said, no, let's not do that. We have to have a higher standard, I think, than that. So I can both say, yeah, unfortunate wording, saying leg to stand on, but that's a phrase people use. It just popped out of her mouth. She's not trying to. So then I can also say, Libs of TikTok, you're being ridiculous. It's not disgusting. She's not mocking him. Now, the Governor Hot Wheels one was more of a mocking. It was. Okay, and that's why I said don't do that. I said no. Just like how I said you shouldn't say bleach blonde, bad bill, butch your body, as far as Jasmine Crockett quotes go. All right? Did I sing it when the remixes came out? Yeah, I sung it. I did. Okay, I did. But I still was against it. So that's just life. Then you have Jessica Tarlov on Fox saying this.
But it doesn't change the facts on the ground. There was a bill in 2021 that all the Democrats supported that would have had a national ban on redistricting in this way, and all the Republicans opposed it. I also heard no complaints from any Republican when Mike Johnson, just a couple weeks ago, decided to abdicate his job to say, actually, Congress isn't in session anymore because I don't want to have to vote on turning over the Epstein files, the bill put forward by Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie. He said, let's go home, rather than talk about the fact that Donald Trump may or may not have been in there. All right. So be equal opportunity in your complaints about fleeing your job. At least they're doing this for a good reason.
Tommy?
Yeah, by the way, just because I'm still thinking about the Governor Hot Wheels thing, it was so funny. I got a bunch of emails from people who said, I'm in a wheelchair, and I loved that insult. And I was like, wait, now I'm checkmated. Because I do have that principle. I'm like, I think our message is stronger if we stay away from petty attacks, especially about things that are out of people's control, right? It's why I still am struggling and resisting to do any RFK Jr. impressions. Is it like right there at the tip of my tongue all the time? Yeah, it is. I do impressions of everyone else. I do like mumbling of Biden and nobody cares, but I feel like that's wading into worse territory somehow. I don't know why. Why can't I say
McDonald's cheeseburger
like that? Why can't I? It's not making fun of it, it's just imitating. But still, I have that principle in general. Petty attacks or message better without it. But then for a bunch of people who themselves are part of the same group to reach out and be like, Luke, you're stupid for that, use the Hot Wheels thing. I was like, I'm confused now. What do I do? Am I insulting them by not doing it? It's more insulting that you wouldn't call him that. I think it's honestly insulting. Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, going back, I'm stuck on it. I think it would be insulting if Casey Hunt had gone. Does he have a does he have a point here? Like if she clearly stopped because of that, it almost feels more. Okay, I didn't realize how long I went on that. Wow. So I think we've addressed that, right? We have strong principles, but they are overreacting. On this same topic, Charlie Kirk was on Fox News.
Balls in their hands, balls in their hands, balls in their hands.
That is Charlie Kirk's voice.
What up, Beta? Balls in their hands.
Those are also his voices. I think something's broken on the soundboard. It keeps glitching. Weird. And listen to what he said on Fox News.
This is a 2028 strategy. And so Gavin Newsom is going to try to call a special session to overturn the will of the voters. I thought it was all about democracy, right? It's not democracy. It's about oligarchy. And the baseline component of all of this is that the people of California, Republican and Democrat, socialist and libertarian, they don't want politicians involved in the drawing of the maps. Gavin Newsom does not care because he wants to be president more than listen to the voters of California.
What? Oh, booby. Mommy, I want my peaky baby. Mommy, baby body. What? Did you hear what he said? Voters don't want politicians involved in the drawing of the maps. Yeah, I agree. Do you know what prompted all of this? Politicians drawing the maps in Texas. That's what started this whole series of events. Do you know who votes against banning partisan gerrymandering? Republicans. And then he's like, well, I know you are, but what am I about the oligarchy? Democrats just want an oligarchy, because he keeps hearing us say that about them. How does that even connect? And he's like, this is not about democracy. Wait. Texas is not putting up their map to a vote. California is. California is putting on their ballot this November for the next November, where California voters can decide if they approve this new congressional map that's titled like the Election Rigging Response Act. Response to Texas. And he goes, here's the deal. Newsom's corrupt because people they don't want politicians drawing the maps. It's your party, bro. Beta bro.
What up, Beta?
Who is starting this. And as you heard Jessica Tolliver in that flashback clip say, it's Democrats who vote for the banning of partisan gerrymandering. It's Republicans who blocked it the last time it was up for a vote. They want an oligarchy, and what they want is what they want is a map in Texas where the district goes from Austin to San Antonio just over a highway. The only constituent is roadkill. That's the only constituent in the highway part of it. Wait, that was Texas's map. Oh shoot. It's so bizarre. And then another just case of finally Democrats being the ones who are trolling the right into being irrational, because Trump does that. He'll say something and then the left is irrational. Finally, the Gavin Newsom press office account that's been posting those all caps, like Trump style posts, to which it was weird. Chris Cuomo, with love, I say, why did you respond to those saying posting in all caps doesn't make your message stronger? And it was like, no, they're mocking Trump. And it's funny and it's working, and people are talking about those posts way more than any other governor's press office ever. But then you have Fox going,
The governor blasting the move, though, he wrote on X, Trump's private army is illegally on private property. We will not be intimidated by this weak little man. Well, he wrote that. It's not lost on people. He's LARPing. President Trump. And his office has been doing so now for a couple of days. Take a look at some of these posts. They wrote, "Make the maps great again. Big, beautiful rally today. Thank you for your attention to this matter." It's like a college sophomore trying to take English 101. They still haven't yet found their voice. So the only thing he knows how to do is copy. I guess imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
I'm trying to think. That's so inherently funny. I'm trying to think of how to even respond to that. Sorry, that's so funny. Look at what they've been posting. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Why would they write something like that? That's what President Trump says. They are plagiarizing the President of the United States. We now have a governor, a sitting governor, guilty of plagiarism of the President of the United States. We'll be back with you after this quick break.